Right. Hello, everyone. And I am so excited to introduce Men Talk Feminism's very first interview guest. He's becoming a worldwide sensation due to his story and his book, I Took Her Name. He is a feminism advocate, an author, and he's called Shu Matsuo Post. Hello, Shu.
Hi, Maria. What a warm welcome. Thank you so much for having me today. Pleasure.
Pleasure. It's a real honor to talk to you, honestly. Now, of course, both of us, we sort of share a similar vision. We want to get more men's attention and expand the awareness around why feminism is something that they would want to engage with and should support, right? So to that end, I'd like to start to put to you the 3 questions that we've got on our platform on Men Talk Feminism that all men tend to answer when they leave an entry there. And then I'll have some additional questions for you. Is that okay?
Sure, let's do it.
Perfect. So the very first question is, why is feminism relevant to men?
It is very relevant because feminism isn't just about women's empowerment. For me, it's a humanity issue, and humanity is all like men, women, all gender need to be involved, right? And if 50% of the population, I'm talking about men, is not involved in elevating, lifting up women and lifting up humanity, nothing significant is going to happen, right? So that's why it's super important. And it's again, it's not just for women's empowerment. It also, I believe, it liberates men as well, because it gives men the freedom to really express who they are as they want. We don't have to be trapped in this masculinity box or men box or whatever you want to call it. We can free to express ourselves outside of that box, and we can embrace our differences, and we can embrace both masculinity and femininity. And I think that's a beautiful thing for men as well.
Lovely put. And I love how you contextualized it and how you framed it up front as a humanity issue first and foremost. And how also in your book, you lead with that message, and how you talk about gender inequality, how you started to observe that, how women are more disadvantaged in most societies compared to men. And you even dedicate a whole chapter to her story, and also a whole chapter to his story. So in relation to men, but without ignoring, or you don't put the focus solely on the fact that feminism does something for men too, because I think this can sometimes be a little bit of a danger that the discourse goes in that direction.
Right. Yeah. That's a very delicate point. And that's not my main point, obviously. Like, I'm not victimizing men as well. It's a byproduct of patriarchy, right? Patriarchy obviously directly harms women a lot more than men, but men, it's harming men as well. So just removing patriarchy, which means promoting feminism, to me, it's a win-win situation for all types of, all gender. So that's what I mean by that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And you do really express that very well. Like I said in your book, the way you contextualize it, and even just now, I love that focus and that very clear message, so that no one gets the message, well, patriarchy is bad for men. This is why men should get mobilized, as if the fact that patriarchy is bad for women wasn't enough of a reason. No, it's bad for humanity, like you said. And yeah, so thank you so much. You already touched upon the second question, which is why, or rather, how does feminism benefit men? Do you want to add anything to that?
It's just one word: freedom. I think it brings a lot of freedom and authenticity to I mean, that's what happened to me. Like the more I practice, feminism or gender equality, I feel freer. I don't have to feel like I have to be a certain way because I'm a man,
Yeah.
right? I embrace the feminine side of my qualities, and I never was like that. Not too long ago, to be honest. I was kind of, like I said, kind of stuck in this box because I wanted to be a successful man, and I wanted to feel like I'm valued by society. And back then, I believed that the really expressing my masculine qualities was the only way to do that as a man. But now I feel different, and I feel a lot freer than before. So that's a big benefit, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, you do say in your book how you were feeling like a bird trapped in a cage, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why there is a purple bird in the cover of the book. Yeah,
There you go.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And then the third question is, have you always embraced feminism? Knowing, I know the answer because I read part of the book and you just alluded to it as well. And then the question is, if not, what changed your mind? Now, of course, in a way, that's what your book is about and talks about. But can you talk us through that a little bit? Like, what were some of the things that
Hmm.
actually made you want to explore feminism, that actually made you realize, oh, feminism isn't what I thought it was?
Hmm. To answer your first question, no, I wasn't embracing feminism before. I really started to learn more about feminism, I would say like 7 years ago. And when I met my now wife, and I'm giving her a lot of credit because meeting her was like the turning point in my journey. And I would say that's when I really started my journey into vulnerability, authenticity, and feminism. So she happens to be a teacher, and she teaches English literature to her students. And one of her annual units is gender and language. So she naturally teaches, that kind of subject. So when we met, she had just started to teach that unit. And she was kind of asking me about, what I think about gender and what I think about gender equality. And, I had always thought of myself as someone that believed in gender equality, but I didn't associate that concept with the term feminism. But if you really think about it, feminism is about promoting gender equality, believing that all gender is equal, right? But for some reason, I think a lot of people, especially men, feel the same way. The word feminism is like so negative. Like there's such a stigma attached to that word for whatever that reason. I think it's the media portraying those maybe extreme feminists who are like hating men or bra burning, and then that's not the only type of feminism. To me, feminism is very inclusive. It's all about including and promoting equality amongst all kinds of people, right? Um, so yeah, that was the turning point, and that was about 7 years ago. And she really did a really good job teaching me. And she wasn't like she's not someone that really like attacked me with my beliefs or anything like that. She was very gentle, kind with her approach. So she got me thinking about why did I do the things that I used to do. So I eventually got to the point where I wanted to where I am now. But she definitely helped me get to where I am. So very fortunate to have someone like that as a life partner. And I know that I've talked to feminist men who are raised that way. So this person that I talked to yesterday, he's always been a feminist. He has 3 sisters, and he kind of grew up that way. So he has a different journey than me. I happen to have a life partner who really changed my worldview. And I'm hoping, for men out there who don't think feminism is good for men, hopefully my book or my message will open up perspective so that, you know, they'll see, you know, I guess my story, and hope to realize that feminism actually is good for everyone.
Love that. Yes, that's what we at Mental Feminism hope as well. And like you said, this platform exists to help destigmatize feminism. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I like what you said there around, I was going to ask you, what made you receptive? Because I think it's credit to both of you. I think you had to have a certain minimum of receptiveness on your end, but also
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like how your wife approached the topic helped with that receptiveness.
Thank you. Yeah, I think having an open mind is really helped me. I love to learn. I love to learn things that I don't know. That doesn't mean I'm going to be a believer of that, you know, a different opinion
Sure.
right away or every time. But
Yeah.
I think I love to learn about different perspectives, and I think that really helped to understand feminism at the time. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. And well, you talk about it in the book, and you mentioned it just now, that there is this chasm between, on the one hand, having men who believe in gender equality. Like you said, you thought you were one of those men, but at the same time, the same men, when you ask them, are you a feminist? A lot of them will say no. And that there is some associations with feminism that seem to get in the way of the equation. Gender equality, fight for gender equality equals feminism. So I want to hone in one more time in terms of what would you now say to those men who view feminism solely in that light of it being man-hating, anti-man, or an attack on men?
Yeah, I think some people that I've talked to that are kind of anti, you know, the idea of anti-feminism is that, you know, feminism, people think feminism is about giving the pedestal to women. You know, the men have been kind of controlling that pedestal, right? Like on the driver's seat or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then feminism is about, oh, it's not men. The future is female. Oh, does that mean women are going to be on the pedestal?
Mm-hmm.
I say no. I say forget about the pedestal. There's no pedestal. It's equal, you know, equal playing field. So feminism isn't about men hating. You know, they're like my wife is a feminist, and she clearly likes men, and so she married me. And I know there are a lot of feminist women out there who love men as well. And yeah, so I think that's the misconception, I think, of
Yeah.
the word feminist. It's about removing the pedestal so
Right.
that everyone's is on the same playing field.
Love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
well put. Great. So then I'd like to ask you, do you think it's important that men don't just stop at being all for gender equality, but that they actually openly, maybe like you publicly, support feminism? What's the value of that?
So I mentioned this in my book as well. I think this world is patriarchal. So it's set up in a way. So if you don't do anything about the system, so this world works in a way that's that favors men. So by nature, I think this world is set up so that, you know, things are sexist if you don't call it out. So if you don't say anything, if you see something, like if you hear a sexist comment made by someone, and if you don't do anything, you're basically saying that it's okay for someone to act that way, right? So you're supporting sexism in a way. Yeah. So I think calling out sexism
Mm-hmm.
is supporting feminism, right?
Right.
So it's, to me, that's why I'm in this work. You know, people call me out sometimes, saying, like, criticize me sometimes, saying, well, you're just trying to promote yourself using the, you know, male feminist. Like, you can't be a feminist because you're a man. What are you doing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think I don't care about that kind of criticism, because that's not what I'm trying to do. I am trying to get attention to the issue. that this world is set up in the way that men systemically, benefits, right? So I think we need to actively challenge that so that the system is more equal, regardless of your gender. Or, this time, for this issue, it's about gender.
Yep.
But for, racism and classism and all sort of stuff, I think it's really important to talk about it, to call out things that are not serving, serving you and serving other people, so that we can really change the system so that it works for everyone equally.
Fantastic. Yes. Remaining silent is being complicit, like you say, and calling out sexism. I like how you equal that with, well, if you do that, you actually are feminist. You are supporting feminism. That's what it is about.
Yeah.
So on that note, with International Women's Day coming up, of course, I was going to ask you, what do you think can men practically do in their everyday lives to help advance the cause of gender equality? You mentioned one thing there. Anything to add?
Yeah, I think, I'm not perfect. So, if you're trying to catch every sexist comment or behavior and call out, every stranger that you see or every family member you see, every friend you see, you're going to get exhausted. And I sometimes miss opportunities, and I like beat myself around it, because it happens all the time. It's so unconscious, right? Unconscious bias happens all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think it's just like being in the practice, and I think what I like to do is ask questions, instead of like, hey, that's sexist, stop. Like, hey, can you tell me what you mean by what you just said, so that you can understand that person's kind of thought process.
Right.
Oftentimes people don't want to be sexist, they don't want to be called sexist, right? But it's just so ingrained in our thought process, right? The gender bias. So I think it's a good practice to ask questions. So it'll strike an interesting conversation, and that might lead to a great conclusion of like, oh, I didn't know that was sexist. Thanks for calling that out. Or it could be a really interesting argument. But I think that's what's needed.
Yeah.
And also confronting gender norms that aren't serving you,
Right.
is a big one as well. So that's the first thing that I did when I wanted to kind of work on promoting feminism, because like I said before, I felt like I had to be a certain type of man, always be dominant, always be controlling, winning all the time, and like not showing emotions.
Right.
And that was quite exhausting,
Yes.
And while I think those qualities are beautiful and I'm not going to lose those qualities, I'm also going to embrace the other, more feminine side of it as well. So instead of like trying to be, masculine all the time, now I'm kind of like saying like, okay, that's not serving me. So I'm going to actually take in or practice demonstrating more feminine side of myself, because, it's always, I know that it's always inside of me, like being empathetic and showing emotions when I want to. So I think that's a practice or exercise that men can do.
Fantastic. Yes. I love that you said being empathetic, as an example, is inside of you. It's traditionally associated with feminine, but we all carry all those qualities. It's just about embracing them all. Lovely. Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, you just mentioned that some people criticize you. You're just attention seeking. I think you're just using your male privilege to put a message out there that supports gender equality. And on that note, using your current platform that you are building, again, with International Women's Day in mind, are there any particular women or one woman or a women-led organization that you find inspirational, that, you would like to promote in the spirit of amplifying women's voices?
Oh yeah, there are a few. Like I'd love to support yours, obviously. And a couple others that I'm supporting actually, and I put that in my book as well. So I'm donating at least 10% of my book royalties to nonprofit organizations that support feminism. So Women Empowered International is one that I'm supporting. So it's a Tokyo-based organization led by women, especially younger women in Japan, and they tend to be very international or like bilingual. You know, they tend to speak like English and Japanese, but also inclusive to other languages as well. They're doing really phenomenal work educating younger people in Japan, and also collaborating with those expats in Japan to raise awareness of and empowering women, and also Leaning Tokyo. You know, it's an organization that I've worked with in the past, and they've supported me with my book launch, and they've done some really great work in Tokyo as well. So those two are the organizations that I'm supporting. Yeah, and kind of local, but I know there are branches, Leaning branches all over the world as well. So yeah.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for that. Well, we're nearing the end of the time, Shu. So I want to say thank you so much for agreeing to give us some of your time. I know you've had a busy schedule this week, and I really appreciate that you were able to accommodate this interview with Men Talk Feminism. Thank you for the work that you do, your advocacy, for putting this message out there. And I want to leave everyone with two things. Number one, whether you're a man or a woman or wherever you are on the gender spectrum, check out I Took Her Name. I started reading it and I find it really inspirational and refreshing, okay? It's also interesting from an intercultural point of view, not just from a gender perspective. And then number two, please go to mentalkfeminism.com if you wanted to start exploring feminism. And if you are already a pro-feminist man, please follow Shu's example, use your voice, leave your perspective on the website by leaving an entry on why feminism is for men too. And on that note, thanks again, Shu, and I wish you all the best on the rest of your journey.
Thank you so much, Maria. It was so much fun talking to you, and really appreciate your kind words.
Well, thank you.
It means a lot to me.
Thanks. Have a good day, everyone.